oh my goodness, look at this. I'm a mess.
I was not expecting the
Intro to be so short.
yeah. What happened
That
with that?
well, we've been having more than one guest, and it was longer. So, how you doing?
I'm a little tired today.
Everybody was saying that today in class. And it's because this was a long weekend for us. We had the competition, and the kids were a little bit tired today too. Just now when I left, the kids were like, "Oh my goodness,
Hmm.
what a long weekend!" I probably should have given them the day off. I should have taken the day off. But if you guys heard the theme song that we have, um,
Yes.
that came
Yes.
from our guest tonight. Why do I see like words on there or something? What's going on?
What are you talking
Oh,
about?
never mind. That's what it is. I I saw something shiny. Um, yeah, but we got a lot going on, and you want to talk about why our thing looks like so fancy or couch back there?
I'm allowed to talk about it now?
Sure. Don't be fresh.
Yeah, so I recently, like in the middle of February, started hosting live stream sales videos on TikTok for a company called We Branding. And Tuesdays I shoot at home, which is wonderful
Mm-hmm.
because I don't have to go anywhere. They send me the product. We are live right now, Daryl.
Yeah.
I talk about the product and Heidi and, all that good stuff from the comfort of my own home. Thank God for technology,
Right. Right.
ring lights and
Ring lights and
ring
everything.
lights and all that good stuff. And then,
And basically, this is a studio. I mean, if
yeah,
you look around, everything in here is a studio. This is where we do everything. This is basically where we do our show.
yeah,
That's about it. And I
yeah.
play my guitar.
Where we do the
like
show, where auditions are taped, where Zoom calls are had for different meetings. And I found out today that the company just got the shipment
Mm-hmm.
of clothing in. So we're gonna start. I'm gonna start selling clothes
Oh my
online on
goodness!
TikTok. I am so excited. I just got the message today. So tomorrow I'm live streaming 11:45 a.m. If you guys are not busy. I mean, I post the link all the time on Facebook.
Right.
And then Thursday I'll be in NYC doing
Mm-hmm.
the same thing but different products. And then hopefully next week.
It's funny because people say, "Oh, be careful what you say, the words that you use."
Yeah.
And you always wanted to do something like this.
Mm-hmm.
QVC, and this is similar, almost, well, basically the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Thank you, Daryl.
it's funny how when you talk about something, it becomes true. You transform into that. So be
Yeah.
careful what you say, people. I'm sorry, people that are moving a lot, but I can't see right now, and it's because of this.
Yeah. So I'm very excited about that. It's you I've been basically promoting the same products, but you get new products in and you just got to learn them. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I found my niche.
Yeah, you're good at it, as I said. And you're so good that even though I know that you're going to be on, I have bought several products
Several things.
from them. Wait a minute.
He hasn't purchased anything that I've asked for yet, but he's
What are you
purchased
talking
several
about?
things. I asked you to buy the toaster.
Oh no, we have a toaster.
We also have
We
blankets.
we don't need $1,000 toaster.
Anyway, so you guys, Elai Tubo was one of our guests in season 1 or 2.
Right. So we
I don't remember which season.
I think it was season 2.
Maybe season 2. Yes.
Yeah. Where we known Eli for a long time because his daughter was one of my gymnasts.
Yeah.
And
crazy.
he's so so good.
One of the coolest people you
You
will
will ever
ever
meet.
meet.
One of the best person that you ever meet.
Yeah.
And I know he's good because tonight he's supposed to be celebrating a birthday, but he was gracious enough to come on with us tonight.
We're not going to keep him
We're
that
not going
long.
to keep him that long.
But we had him on. We were talking about how he was involved with the Universal Hip Hop Museum opening in the Bronx this year. We were talking about it, and it was all in the plans and in the works and stuff like that. So,
and then this is an update. Update.
He's going to give us, what's been going on, when the official open date is, and we're going to let him go celebrate and take his honey to dinner, because you don't play around with the special occasions.
You don't play around with that.
He knows better.
So, if you guys are familiar with Rum DNC, he was.
Who is that? I've never heard of him before.
And this is the 50th anniversary of hip hop.
What?
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to get those videos, but I don't know what happened. I'm gonna play this one anyway.
Okay, we have some stuff.
So yeah, and then we're gonna bring him on. Okay.
All right. So we're going to play this video, and then Eli will be in the studio with us.
I said the hip hop, the hip it to the hip hop, you don't stop the rockin' to the bang bang boogie. Say up jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to beat.
From that fateful basement back on Cedric Avenue, hip hop as we knew it was born. The 70s marked the beginning of a revolution in music and in culture.
Jump on it, jump on it, jump on it.
It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under.
By the 1980s, hip-hop had arrived. From superstar pioneers to the young upstarts blazing their own trails. The mainstream had never heard voices like this.
This is the Bronx's greatest export.
Our folk music, our poetry, our moment. And as the industry continued to grow throughout the 90s, a new era of expression shook the scene on both coasts. East side, west side. The decade took hip-hop in bold new directions, forging some of the most influential rappers of all time.
I had to let you know that I got a crush on you.
At the start of the new millennium, a renaissance of Southern artists dominated the airwaves. From Atlanta to Miami to Texas. They all had something to say, with a unique flavor that you can only find in the Dirty South.
They're going right off in the A.
Hold on, wait a minute. Y'all thought I was finished?
From records sold out of the trunk to now downloading tracks at home, new technology kept hip-hop on the cutting edge of pop culture. In an era when internet rappers became bona fide global superstars overnight.
Hey! How you doing?
That was hot. That's the first time I saw that video.
Really?
Yeah, where did you get? Because the ones I sent from the museum was slightly different, but that was pretty good.
We were able to get one that we can play.
I think we were able to get one. I'm not sure if this is the same one though. This is from the museum.
Yeah.
You tell me. You tell me. I'm gonna play it, and then you tell me.
Okay.
Started here in the Bronx, has now become the most influential art form in the entire world.
Rocky said we doing a museum. I'm like, that sounds great. In the Bronx, that's where it should be. I knew it was gonna be official.
The revolution of hip hop is a rotating exhibit, but we start with the early origins of hip hop history.
The first time I really heard hip hop on the radio was with the Sugar Hill Gang. And when Rapper's Delight came out, Sugar Hill had the nerve to put the record out with an instrumental on the other side. Like, try it. Not that easy.
We always have guest DJs in here playing classic vinyl from time to time.
When you see a DJ cut a record, every element just was so sexy, so dope. Like, you was like, that is cool.
So hip hop is not just the music, it's not just rap. It's a living, breathing culture that embodies the DJs or the DJing, the MCs, the MCing, the aerosol art, or what we call graffiti, the B-boys and B-girls, or breaking. And then the last element is knowledge, which brings it all together. The museum represents that last element of hip hop because it's passing on knowledge to everyone that comes here.
And there's something about hip hop that's intoxicating. It's a type of an art form that is unique, but it's not untouchable. I kind of got into hip hop because I wanted to throw parties.
Well, we have some of the early hip hop party flyers that showed, how the teenagers that were really at the beginning of hip hop, how they became entrepreneurs.
Well, the first music, there were no messages. It was just rock the party. The first time I heard a message was when I heard Melly Mel. I'll say Mel opened the lane to the messages. You got Run DMC over here, you got Public Enemy over here, and you got me. I'm rapping from an LA gangster perspective.
People in hip hop, basically use their creative expression to reflect the surroundings of their community. And the beauty of the culture is that it continues to evolve based on, the actual circumstances in everyone's community.
Well, hip hop started to grow limbs. You got party rap. You have what they call native tongue. What I kind of branched off, what I created, which was gangster rap, which is, we're talking about drugs and guns and girls, but it was still part of the ghetto experience. Positive or negative, people were living it. But it all helped hip hop move forward.
If they don't understand the history, someone else is going to give a new interpretation of what hip hop history is, and we don't want that. We want people to have the true understanding of what hip hop history is. This is just a sneak preview of the future museum that's being built across the street at the Bronx Point Development. It is going to be a 50,000 square foot state-of-the-art museum.
I've opened up many hip hop books, but this is a little more visceral, like you get to see it and you get to feel it. I can't wait till the full museum is done.
It goes beyond, just a culture that started here, because now you can't go anywhere in the world without experiencing hip hop culture in one form or another. It has really become a part of every aspect of modern society.
I have this motto that I always say. It says, if you show me, I'll see. If you tell me, I'll hear. But if you involve me, I'll understand. Well, they're telling you the origin of hip hop. Those that care.
All right.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Again, another one that we found. But listen, we got the real deal right here.
That's hot. That's hot. Now that right there says so much that we can get a whole lot done. But what's so cool about it is that we were talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
How many months ago were we talking about it? And now,
now it's a reality.
I feel like it was a year ago.
Yeah.
With us, for you and I. For you.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. Right. And so it took so much. I think there's a saying: if people without a vision perish.
Mm.
And I understood it one way until just recently. It's one thing to create something and then you want to see what you create.
Right.
But then there's another thing when you're creating something that you know you're not going to see. If you're going to create something for somebody 7 generations down the line,
right,
then that type of vision is different from the vision of wanting to see the result of what you create now. And that type of vision requires, it almost borders on prophetic, because you're calling into manifestation, and then you're not going to see it, but you're going to have the faith to know that it's going to keep coming. The type of skills that you need to work with people are different when you're thinking, my grandchildren may be doing business with your grandchildren so that this institution can keep going. So then the type of patience you need is different. The type of perspective that you need is different. The type of vision that you need is totally different. So being involved with the museum has made me at least be aware of how people like that think in terms of, because there's so many different aspects of it. For instance, if you're going to do something like that, you don't have everything that you need at the very start of it. So because of that, you have to have the faith and you have to have the discipline, all the things in gymnastics that you have to teach the children. It's almost like you have to see the vision of what you want before it's actually there. And then you gotta, whether it be I'm going to do the perfect balance beam routine or whatever it is, so that when you conceive it, you have to move to it.
Yeah.
And moving to it is kind of, it's like what you teach with gymnastics, but this is happening on a level where you have to do it with a whole lot of people and a whole lot of moving parts.
Right, right.
And that's an exciting thing to be part of, especially at this stage of my life. Because even now, when you talk about hip hop, what we were doing and what was being done, and our perspective in the '80s is different than what we're doing and what our perspective is now. So you and I can talk about hip hop, the good, the bad, all of it, and put it into the context of, this was the social context that this music was created in.
Right, right. Well, I was raised in the Bronx, and my brother was making fun of me because he asked me a lot of questions. He's 14 years younger than me. But he asked me a lot of questions. So you were around when he started and all that stuff. And then he said that my mom told him, that they took your brother and they arrested him. They didn't really arrest me. They tried to scare me because I was tagging the wall.
Really?
Yeah. So you saw my name on the train and on the walls and things like that. But I was just doing what every kid back then, the hip hop culture was doing.
And now, just to give you a contrast, I grew up in St. Albans, Queens, and I grew up on the same block that James Brown had his house in.
Oh,
crazy! The same block. I would walk out my house, walk to the street, look to the right, and James Brown's house would be right there on the street corner. Right?
Wow!
In that neighborhood, Count Basie was down the block. Brooke Benton was down the block. And so I'm surrounded by what would be considered cream of the crop Black community. So, so I wasn't going to go out there and spray nothing on James Brown's house. You see what I'm saying? Right. So, but the interesting thing is that New York City is 5 boroughs, and each, as a child growing up in New York City, you had the subway, so you would be able to go wherever you thought it was safe. So it wasn't. We've heard the Bronx narrative, which is Kool Herc, Grandmaster Flash, this and that. But when you look at New York City as a complete city, then there were things that were happening in all the other boroughs as well. So it's the responsibility of the museum to bring all these narratives from folklore into actual historical data, collaborating data, so that we can tell our story our way.
I see. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And not really getting into politics or anything like that, but in recent months we have seen when an event happens and then you see it back in the news and it's being reported differently than what you actually saw with your 2 eyeballs. Right. So what that means is that if someone is neutral and they tell your story, there's a possibility that they might not get it right. But if somebody is not in the culture itself, is not in the experience, then you're really taking a chance that they're going to be able to have the sensibilities to tell your story your way. And I think that this is a marquee moment in which you had politicians, you had artists, you had investors, you had all of these people coming together to form this institution in which we will be able to tell our story the way we want to tell it for our children, our children's children, and for the world.
I'm so glad you made that point, because even in watching the video we just played with the gentleman that was in the doing the narrating, in the main person in the video, and he was saying, if you leave your story for someone else to tell it, then it's going to change.
Exactly.
So, it's just, you know, the same exact thing as what you were saying, that we have to tell our own story. And I was watching one of the videos on the website, and I saw that. So now the mayor of New York City, I saw he was there at one of the events. I don't know if it was maybe like a soft opening, but I saw that, man, they're getting everybody involved. And
Right.
every time I watch a video or every time I go to the website, I get chills, because you're talking about someone who grew up on like 80s and 90s hip hop, and that was such a pivotal time, because they showed Notorious B.I.G., they showed Busta Rhymes, who just and he just did a performance where they did this huge hip hop performance. I forgot what award show it was.
The Grammy.
But it was so amazing, because when you bring people together, Ice-T was a part of it too.
Mm-hmm.
When you bring people together like that who were such an important part of a certain era in hip hop or anything like that, it's just it's very nostalgic, and it's so important.
Yeah, well, even then, I mean, the important thing about saying that hip hop is 50 is that we grew up, okay? And so you see LL Cool J, you'll see Queen Latifah, but you know that's in the entertainment industry. But the Bronx Borough president grew up on hip hop, okay? One of the senators quoted Biggie. Now, well, if you don't know, now you know. As he was going through his thing, and so, but what's happening is, and I think that this is important. Okay. Pete said he grew up in the Bronx. Okay.
Right.
He loves his family. He loves the Bronx or whatever. So if he's going to tell his story, there's going to be a certain humanity that's going to come with it, as opposed to back in the 1980s. You know, I did a record. I was engineering on a record called Self-Destruction. Self-Destruction. You had it for self-destruction. You know, right. And what that record was, what happened was that there was a party. I'm not going to get too much into the details of it, but there was an event that happened in which there was some violence that took place, and the media basically took it and said, "This is hip hop. It's a new art form, and it's violent, and it's this and that." And so what happens is whoever they happen to be, started to create a narrative for it. Now, the interesting thing is that when a new art form comes in, usually the people that were comfortable in the old art form, for some reason, just don't accept it. So I've been a recording engineer where I've seen people that were into jazz saying that R&B stuff is crap. It's, you know, it's not whatever. And then I'm sitting there years later in the same studio, then somebody says, these drum machines and these strings, these keyboards don't have the real string sounds, and they'll never work. And then, you know, then those R&B musicians will say, hey, you know, you hear that hip hop stuff, it'll never work or whatever. So after a while, I started to see this pattern, you know, where people were always saying the new thing didn't work. So in its beginning stages, the beautiful thing about the golden age of hip hop for me was that it was so new that nobody could tell us what it was. They just had to let us do what we were going to do. Right. And chance to define it. So now this was the pivotal point in which the media was starting to say, this is bad. This is horrible. And so what the rappers did, which was unheard of, was they were all signed to different record labels. So when you have different record labels, you have contracts that says we have exclusive rights to you and you can't perform for anybody else. But all rappers said, I don't care what my contract says, we have to make this record to basically establish that we are not the creators of violence, and this is what hip hop stands for, and blah, 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 blah. And so then you had all those rappers come together. They didn't all perform at the same time, but it was sort of like the We Are the World type thing with Michael Jackson. They had everything. They all came in there. KRS-One, KRS-One. It was Public Enemy. It was, you know, Heavy D. They all got together, and then we made this record, which was basically saying, you know, stop the violence, which was very purposeful in terms of what it was doing. So now the good thing about hip hop, because you mentioned a lot of different, Ice-T was mentioning a lot of different arms that hip hop has. Okay.
Yeah.
Right now I'm working with the museum. And I'm in charge of, I'm the curator of sound for the museum. So there'll be, I hope this video that you're going to show later that has the New Year's Eve thing that, so my thing is to get the music to make sure that it's right, select the right music. Certain things might be to make sure that it's historically accurate. We have transferring tapes that are in analog format into digital format before they dissipate, because they talk about some of these tapes are 30, 40, 50 years old.
Right, of course.
So you want to preserve a lot of things. So there's a lot of things that has to do with the curation of sound, okay? But the good thing about it is that we can take it back to what was the North Star of hip hop: peace, unity, love, having fun. The 5 elements, which would be whether you call it turntablism, or graffiti writing, breaking, dancing, knowledge is the one that's really important.
Yeah.
Because now what you're talking about, you're having the science department, the scientists, top scientists in New York want to join with hip hop to bring hip hop and science together.
Love that.
So these are the type of things that, that are happening that we're really excited about, that we can actually do to create our own narratives.
What is that like for someone like you that's involved with music, to have this is like the gig of gigs? What is that like? What does that feel like to you?
It's visceral in the sense that when I was doing Eric B. Rakim Paid in Full, okay, or when I was doing Run DMC, or when we were doing Heavy D or Public Enemy or Roxanne Shante or things like that, all of those groups were in their infancy.
Right.
And so they weren't big. They weren't necessarily big when we first started doing them. I mean, by the second album, one had made, noise and stuff like that. But in their infancy, we were still trying to prove that hip hop was financially viable. The good thing about the Sugar Hill Gang was that people said, "Hey, wait a minute, there might be some money in this." And what that did was that connected our community to the economic mainstream of America. Because if that didn't happen, then we would have just been in the neighborhood, just spinning on our heads, and that would have been cute. But somebody saw a connection between the potential for money. Then what happens is that even though they cheated us a lot, they didn't pay us what they should have paid for. But what it was is that our music had to compete, believe it or not, with Michael Jackson's music.
Right.
Because you're still going for the same radio spot, So whether it was Shaka Khan or whether it was Luther Vandross or whatever, hip hop had to artistically and technically sound as good or be competitive, so that it could, that
so they could get airplay.
Right. But then the whole industry started to develop from people saying, okay, well, we'll give you this budget to make this thing here, and so you could pay your friend to make this beat, or this girl, your friend to sing backgrounds on it, or somebody else. And so it developed because there was also a mentoring that was going on, because the R&B engineers like myself and the R&B producers were mentoring us. Okay, one of my mentors that taught me how to engineer was Patrick Adams, who had done Push in the Bush and all that other stuff like that. He was also the engineer for Eric B. and Rakim's Paid in Full album. So you have a quote unquote disco producer that was producing a hip hop album, but we learned the techniques and the process, from that. And as a result, the excellence in terms of how to make music got transferred over to us. And now we see the evidence of the success with that 50 years later. So it's very exciting.
Yeah.
Because part of it was like, these are just people partying. What's all the hubbub about? And then all of a sudden I started going, wait a minute, this might be a little something. And the last thing, not the last thing, but one thing I do want to say is that we're not minstrels.
Okay.
And what I really mean by that is that we're not. We put a value on what we do. So someone could look at us and say they're just dancing, or they're just that. But without the cultural context in terms of why we're dancing, why we're singing, what those lyrics are about, it doesn't have any legs. So from saying these are people who were the descendants of captured free men and women who had the ability to create something out of what appears to be nothing. And even with them not being treated fairly economically as well. Because I could still tell you, friends of mine that in R&B that had record companies that still owed them, or they never got a royalty statement. You know what I'm saying? These are the things that it's not like things that happened to us in the past. It was still happening to us today and the day afterwards. So we start connecting the dots to go, wait a minute, why is it that we come back from World War II and the government says, okay, we'll give you a mortgage in this town, which is Levittown in Long Island, but and you can have a house, but one of the stipulations is that you can't have any mortgages with Black people.
Wow.
So what happens is that when my grandfather comes back from World War II, he doesn't have the option of getting a mortgage. He has to live in affordable housing. Scroll forward 30 years, and then or 50 or 18 years, when he wants to take his child and go to college, he basically doesn't have to go into debt to do it. And then you see the economic disenfranchisement of the people systematically, and hip hop was able to cut through that and say, it doesn't matter whether you don't have this education. It doesn't matter whether you were forcibly incarcerated. It doesn't matter whether these things are. You can rap, okay, come on in, and then you have an opportunity. So that's the type of thing we're saying. Those type of stories need to be told, and we're not trying to make it pretty, you know, but it needs to be told accurately. There's a reason why we are listening to hip hop lyrics today, and it doesn't have the content that it had X years ago. Okay? You have to ask me that question, and I have to be able to tell you this is why. You know, you see what I'm saying? I have and you can't do that unless you are courageous enough to have your foot on what's happening in the country and realize that our entertainment is a reflection of our human experience.
Yeah, exactly.
It is.
Exactly.
And that's the reality of it. So to be able to articulate that and put it into a package where people go, okay, I get that story.
Right.
You know, that's what I'm more excited about. You know.
Okay, I feel that. I feel that.
So when is the museum actually opening?
2023. Sometimes the dates change, but right now, I sent you some pictures so that you could see that there's a building there. Holy moly!
Yeah.
You got it's the first 2 floors of the building is the museum, and then you have over 504 affordable housing units that are going to be there for the community, and it overlooks the East River. There's going to be a promenade there. It's fabulous in terms of being able to see a vision take place. that. But yeah, the thing is that what my job is that when it does open, I'm working with the children's department to say, okay, well, what's going to be in it, and what's going to be in it has to be. You can't plan with today's technology. See, so whether that be holograms or whether it be a metaverse or stuff like that, you have to understand that type of thing. So that leads me to the next thing, which is the main museum is opening in 2023, but currently, right now, the what we call the R Evolution or the Revolution is open currently right now, directly across the street from the museum. And in that, I sent you some photos of the museum that people are coming to now and experience from years 1986 to 1990. Okay, those years are important because
very much.
If you go there, you can see, if I took my own horn, you see my records there. The Eric B. and Rakim paid in full, the self-destruction.
Excuse me.
You go there and
so you have them. So Eli, you allowed them to display that?
Yeah, no, it's there right now. It's right now. If you came there right now,
that's his personal property.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it's on loan because actually that property for me is going to be property for Corinne.
Oh, okay.
You see,
I'm a little verklempt.
All of that's going to be for her, so that whatever she wants to do with it in the future, that's part of it for her.
Wow, Eli, that is.
So she's right now, she's like, nah, that's hanging in my room. Ain't nobody, But the thing is that people are able to see that. But if you decide that you want to come down, you can have a free tour. You'll be able to see everything from Bismarck's gold chain. You'll be able to. I mixed up. There's a special mix that comes together when you go through this tunnel and you hear it drops you back in time and you hear all this music and it crunches all these songs in like 2 minutes and you hear all these songs mixed together, which is the mix that I did, and then you come out and you see Run DMC.
Wow, shooting your horn again. I want to know about this tour. Like, when can we set the tour up? Because I have.
We'll come down with cameras.
I'm filming in the city on Thursdays, and I got Pedro to come down with me 1 week. It's coming up soon in April, so we could, make a day out of it.
You can make that happen. You could be my guest. You could come down, and
awesome.
You'll be able to see. I mean, one of the things that I really would like to set up, and I'm realizing this from going into the museum, is that when I walk in there, you have to realize I'm an engineer, producer. I'm not the one on stage with tight leather pants going, "Ooh, baby." That's not me. That's not what I do. So, but what I find is that when I go into the museum, it makes the museum credible because they say, we have pioneers here. Here's Elai Tubo. That's his gold record. And everybody wants to go take pictures and like that. So I'm kind of enjoying it on that level.
Of course.
And I'm saying, and I'm absorbing all this loving and going, you know what?
Right.
I am relevant. It does matter. It does make it does make a difference. Because if you're not out there, a lot of times you don't get a chance to see that feedback.
Right.
And some of the feedback that I'm getting is just so. I mean, I could tell you stories. Matter of fact, can I tell you one?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. On Paid in Full, Eric B. and Rakim, there's a part where at the end of that story, Eric B says, "Yo, Eli, turn up the bass, let the beat keep on rocking." But what happened to peace? Peace, 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 peace. So that's how the record ends, right? So fast forward ahead, we're at the Schomburg. Rakim is at the Schomburg because he wrote a book called what do we call it? I can't remember offhand, but Rakim wrote a book. It'll come to me. But Ralph McDaniels, who was from Queens, a DJ, is a very good friend of mine, and I was a DJ. So the one thing about Queens was that if you were in Queens, if somebody was doing something, we'd be like, hey, how'd you do that? Hey, you know, and we all became friends. So when Ralph McDaniels did Video Music Box, he was DJing at a club called Encore. He had to leave the Encore and he was doing Video Music Box. And then I started DJing at the Encore. So Ralph and I knew each other really well. So when I came to the Schomburg, I'm sitting there and nobody has seen the face of, yo, Eli, turn up the bass. Okay, so I'm sitting there. So Ralph sees me in the this is the Schomburg, right? Schomburg Museum, and he sees me. So then as soon as Rakim finishes, he says, and you know what? We have a special guest in the house today. You know, and yo, Eli turned up the bass. He said, Elai Tubo, he's right there. And the whole place jumps totally. The whole place jumps up, everybody starts screaming, nah, nah, nah. And for the first time, I'm like, yeah, I am the guy. But here's this what happens. So as they end the program, people are walking up to me and saying, hey man, you know, when you're working with stuff like that. And I'm soaking it in because this is a new experience for me. This man walks up to me and says, I think he's either from Czechoslovakia or Germany or something. I can't remember. And he says, can I take a picture with you? He said, because I want to send it to my brother because he named his son after you.
Wow.
I said,
wow.
What? He said, we were so touched by Rakim's lyrics paid in full, but he wasn't going to name his son Rakim because it was Europe. He said, so they decided to name him Eli. He says, and I just want him to see that I met you because it's going to be
crazy.
That's awesome.
And I'm saying that's crazy because it's showing hip hop in a different way in that. And I'm saying, I know Pete, you can relate to this. Sometimes there's an idea whose time has come. And so it's not about us. It's about us being the vehicles behind this idea coming through. And it takes many different forms.
Right.
But hip hop, for me, it's not about I did it, we did it. It's like a flow, like a wave. And we just happen to be the ones that the wave came through. So that when I start seeing it in China and on TikTok and all kind of stuff, and I'm seeing these kids dancing to James Brown and feeling it and interpreting it a different way, and people, and I'm grateful that I was a part of it.
Right.
You know? And but then I'm relevant in that I can be instrumental in accurately portraying our science, our art, and connect the dots in the way so that, like I said, we're not minstrels. No, we're scientists. No, we're the ones that push electronic music by drum programming and stuff forward. We're the ones that put sampling forward. We're the ones that still have to invent how are we going to feed our people. See what I'm saying? When everyone says, no, you're not good enough to get a loan from a bank, or no, you don't have an education, or no, you're not good enough to this or that, that the community still found a way to say, you're valuable. I can use what you have, and let's dream together, and let's make it happen. So it's a great time. It's really a great time.
It's awesome. So when you got your gold record in 1984, right?
One of them, yeah.
One of them. That was for the DMC, Run DMC.
Well, the first gold record that I had was actually an R&B record called Bounce Rock Skate Roll.
Oh.
You know, so that was the first gold record that I got. Okay. Then there was the there was the Run DMC album, the first two Run DMC albums, which also, no, before that there was Curtis Blow.
Yes.
Breaks. There was Curtis Blow and Breaks. And so a lot of the records that I've done are iconic hip hop records, like The Roof is on fire. You know, I did that. If I do, if I say self-destruction, headed for self-destruction, when you start naming records like that, then there's a certain amount of respect where people will go, yeah, oh, okay.
Oh yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the guy. So, and that's just the hip hop stuff because I was also an R&B engineer as well. So working with groups like Cameo and doing a lot of R&B stuff and a lot of house music and stuff like that. As far as I'm concerned, it's all music. And so as an engineer, when somebody comes into a session, you don't go, well, I don't like what you're doing, or
Right.
You can't be judgmental in the recording session because then the whole vibe is going to be off. So you don't develop that thing to go, well, I like this or I don't like that. You can't do that because then the person will be like, you know what? I'm just not feeling him no more. And you get instantly fired. You get instantly fired and you don't know why. You know, like, oh, he didn't call me back, or you come back the next day and he got another engineer in the session. You'd be like, oh, okay. But it's about vibration. You know, it's about the science in terms of what we understand, those things that make us, I would say, great by comparison. And then you start recognize it. You recognize it whether it's in Michael Jackson, you recognize it whether it's in Muhammad Ali, you recognize it whether it's in Bruce Lee. You recognize this quality of excellence that gets to be expressed. And I live 1 foot in the I'm gonna make a t-shirt that says, I live in the space between the unknown and the microphone.
Ooh, I want to buy one.
And then I don't know whether I put it on the back. Hip hop begins before me. No, hip hop for me begins before the MC. Okay, so what that's really saying is that
mind is blown.
What you're really saying is that there's a difference between the art form and the art itself. Some people think that the art form is what it is. They think it's the turntable. They think it's this, but it's the process that the creators are really dealing with. That's why you can have someone like, say, LL Cool J, who realizes that he's a creator. So whether he's rapping, then all of a sudden he has to decide, oh, I'm going to be an actor. So then he's taking that same creative energy and then he's using the disciplines, and then all of a sudden, so then he doesn't get stuck in a particular form.
Right.
Because it's about the art, it's about the energy, it's about the creativity, it's about the flow, the discipline, the movement, you know, this and that. And so for me, it's good for me to be involved in the creative process with so many people that have been successful. So I've been in the studio with Jay-Z. I've been in the studio with Run DMC. I've been in the studio with Heavy D. I've been in the studio with Public Enemy. You know, but not just sitting there, but involved in the creative process with them and putting my 2 cents in and doing what I'm doing. So when you sit back, you know, so sometimes you sit back and you watch people on the Grammys and you go like, I can't, you know, whatever, you know, but then sometimes you get someone like a Roxanne Shante who come by and say, this was my engineer from Power Play Studio, my first engineer. If it wasn't for him, there'd be no Roxanne Shante. Things like that go, you know what? They get it. You know, we get it. Some people, I'm just a stepping stone on their path to someone else. And then with other people, they're saying, you know what, if it wasn't for this guy,
right,
you know, I wouldn't be. So it can be rewarding. And I'm just waiting for that big check to be rewarding, and I'll really be happy.
Well, you know, I feel that because he's saying all those things, he's dropping names. And I'm like, I was talking to him on the phone last week, and he edited a song for me.
That's
and
right.
I got his number in my phone. He answers my text messages when we text. And I've known him for well over 10 years. And look.
Yeah, but hold up, Pete. She didn't just, before she would call and say, hey, can you come down to the gym and edit these things together or whatever? And I would say, okay, great. And then I would come and then we figure it out. But this time she's all high tech now. So what she does so check it out. So then what happens is she calls and says, we need something edited. When do you need it? Yesterday. Oh, okay. All right. So she sets up, we set up a Zoom call, and
she
looks at my my session,
Mhm.
my recording session, and then we go through the session together. Meanwhile, she's in Monticello, I'm in New York, and we working like high tech. You know,
Right.
like,
I
what?
was talking to.
I was working
You
with
know,
Elai Tubo.
that's right. And we was like, what do you need? She was like, thank you. Bye. You know.
And, so I have to tell you, the young lady whose song that was, she went crazy for that ending.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, now I have to think of a new pose to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she went nuts for it.
And
Absolutely loved it.
she
But
got
see,
it.
that makes it that's really what makes it all wild because as you know, and I know Pete knows this even better than I do, because of what you do, you understand the importance of legacy. I mean, I'm gonna tell you, Pete has 2, 3 generations of little girls that have been underneath his tutelage, that have gone through that experience of experience, discipline, putting their nails on, getting their hair done, getting themselves stronger, and doing that. And so Corinne went through that because you're saying, okay, what can I do to empower my daughter so that she'll know that she lives in the world in which she will be respected, and as a human being equally, and how many things, and so to be able to do it in a safe environment, to be able to do it um, where they can experience success, but also I think the most important thing for me was to be able to experience the humanity,
Mm.
because if we think that it's about beating each other up, or squeezing each other's head in the room, and then whoever's left standing is the winner. But then you come back to the room and you look, and there's one person standing there, and they got their hand around his old neck, and they squeezing
Mhm.
as tight as they can because the competition is taken out of context.
Mhm.
Or the only way that I could win is I have the scarcity mentality that there's not enough to go around. So I have to beat you at all costs. We
Mhm.
wanted to make sure that that wasn't being taught to Corinne because that's not innately who we are. And yet at the same token, you're saying, but you're placing yourself in a situation to be competitive.
Right.
Right.
So you have to win, or you should win, but your winning has to be in relationship to your humanity. And I think that that's something that you as a beacon of that in the Sullivan County area, that's your legacy. And I'm glad to be a part of it. That's why when she calls me and says, "Hey, can you do this thing?" Like I'm like, my son's doing. I said, "Yay!" Then, we want to win. That's why when you called me and I said, "So how the girls do?"
They did great. They did great.
Yeah.
That particular young lady that you we're talking about, she used that music and she got first place on one of the meets.
Ah,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
With that music, yeah.
Hmm.
So she's having really having a great time. But now she loves her even more.
Yeah. Just that one change. She was like,
Yeah.
ah.
Yeah.
right. And that all makes a difference,
Hmm.
I mean, because I know that my legacy for me is the feeling that I leave in the hearts of people.
Mm-hmm.
That's my
Wow.
legacy. And I've watched you do it for years, Pete. So, hats off to you.
Yeah.
Hats
Thank
off.
you.
Well,
Thank you.
listen, on that note, you mentioning your legacy, we are going to let you go. When we post this video, we're going to put the link for the Universal Hip Hop Museum because I saw some merch on the website. I want to get me some merch. Maybe
Right.
I'll buy it that day when I go. But we are also going to connect with you because we definitely want to do the tour soon.
Yeah. See, make sure you post the link, the one that has Hip Hop 50 that ends
Right.
with
Right.
the mayor of New York City.
Yeah. I got it right here, but I don't know how to.
What is that? That's
The one.
okay. Yep, we actually can see that one. Okay, we will definitely
Tell
do
me
that.
if you hear this.
Oh, reload the play and you can't. Oh, there's a hiccup.
Okay.
We see a video with Chuck Schumer. Look at Chuck.
No, not that. Not that one. It's
They
the
would
one.
see another one. There's another one
one
too.
that says that has Rocky, and it says it's the one that you started playing that said the beginning of
Oh, okay.
Right.
Oh, the one with Ice-T in it?
no.
No,
The
no,
one,
you sent me this one, but
one that talks about they played it, believe it or not, they played it on the Jumbotron on New Year's Eve.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I did the music for that.
Of course you did,
Oh.
because
Yeah,
you're
I
the
did the music
sound
for
curator.
yeah. I just want to rub myself on the back and let everybody know.
Yes, that term has a lot of sauce.
Yeah.
Sauce. Sound curator.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to being able to speak at colleges and do all kind of things like that to, to take what we do to the next level. So Pete, I'm going back to the gym. I've been at the gym. I've been at the gym since October because I can't be standing in front of the camera with my stomach hanging down to my kneecaps and stuff like that. I gotta represent. So who knows? I might, if you do that adult gym class, I might still want to come up there and.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, now let me tell you something. How weird that is. Okay, because we had Liz, right? You know Liz.
Yes.
Okay, so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I was just talking to her on the way here, and guess what she was talking about?
An adult gymnastics.
The adult gym class.
Really?
We were just talking about that because her daughter wants to come and spend some time with me, and then I ran into another Lisa Casas at Shopra, and she said, "Hey, were you doing adult class? So we're probably gonna get something together."
Yeah. I mean, an adult class. Think of the age groups and stuff that's going to be there. You can break it up so much because I wanted to work out before I even came to see you. I want to stretch out and everything. At least I should be able to.
I know you wanted to do the rings.
Yeah. He should be putting me on these rings.
I put you on the rings.
What? Wait, you did?
Yeah.
I might be able to. I'll tell you one thing. I'll be able to do a handstand again on that bar. Before
Okay.
you, yeah. That's
on the Oh, she wasn't there.
Okay.
Well, I used to battle with that little guy. What was his name?
Oh.
Who was there?
Chris.
Was it little Chris, little guy that used to get mad? The little short.
Yeah, I think you're talking about Chris.
I think it was Chris. Right. He was beginning.
Today we had Austin Michael that was a state champion for a couple of years.
Came back and brought.
And he came back and brought his kid. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hey, Darryl, what's going on? How you doing?
Wonderful.
Wow, yeah. I mean, Pete, you're able to get long-term friends and friendships, which is great.
Yeah.
So you weren't able to get that. You weren't able to get that that video, the one that starts.
No, I've been trying to, even when you were talking, but
you'll probably be able to upload it when we upload this video. When we do the video,
we'll
put the link for that one. Yeah. And we can
okay.
That.
Yeah, because I tried to go. There's a couple of different ways that we could do it, but for some reason it's not. And I went on the download.
The download.
Download
or the download.
Downloading.
Or maybe you would just have to play it straight from the internet, from the website. From the website.
Yeah, that'll be easier because then if we include the link, we click on it, then it'll pop right up directly on the website as opposed to us trying to upload it into this player.
Right.
So.
Right. Mm-hmm. So we could do that.
But anyway, kind sir, we're not going to hold you. We know you have some dinner plans you got to get.
No. I did it. We had early lunch today.
Oh, you did already?
Oh, you did? Okay.
We had early lunch today. So if there's any questions you got, you might as well give it to me right now. That's why I wore my all access pass. If you see it right there.
What?
Since I was backstage with you guys, you had me. I'm saying I want to feel official. So when y'all had me waiting for the show, I put on my all access pass.
50. It's not coming up, but
okay.
I find a way to do it. and we'll do it again.
It's a shame because if this was another, I could actually share my screen and I could play it for.
Oh, if it was a Zoom, yeah.
Yeah, of course. But we'll work it out.
We'll get it up there.
Are you going to edit this by any chance?
There's nothing to edit out.
Everything was great.
Everything is perfect.
Oh, okay. Because I was saying that you could take it and insert it in, so that people.
You know what? I'll do that on YouTube. I'll do that because I do like a whole explanation who came on, their title, and I'll put that in on YouTube editor.
Yeah, because that thing is really hot. It's really, really hot.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so just
I
make sure
watched
I get
it
that.
a couple of times, but for some reason it wouldn't come up.
Cool.
It's a different format.
Oh, okay. But if you, okay, we'll figure that out.
So let's have Eli answer this last question before we let him go. Patricia Shiner has a question. Who is your favorite artist to work with?
Who's my favorite artist to work with?
That's
Patricia. No, Patricia. I want to be really want to be honest. And after I give the answer, I would really like you for you to type in your response to what I'm saying, because I always knew that I would be asked a question like this, like who's your favorite MC and stuff like that. And so I don't want to say I kind of prepared it, but I really thought about it. And I alluded to it earlier when I was saying, as an engineer, when a client comes into the studio and their dreams and their intention and everything comes in, I feel as an engineer, producer, one of my jobs is to make the environment a safe environment. Okay. And so I had to develop almost a non-judgmental dynamic in which it made me realize that we're in a society that doesn't realize it, but we're always comparing.
Sure.
And we always put things in the which is the best, which is the favorite, what is it this? Because I don't know whether it implies that the person who's in the number one spot gets what the person doesn't get in the number two spot. And so you want to be because everything that we do to put value on it is based in competition.
Right.
So over the years, there were certain things that I had to do because I didn't want to just naturally fall into that narrative. And that could be anything from simply watching a football game without wanting somebody to win. Okay? Or being able to be in the studio with an artist and see genius and tap into it in a way to say, how can I contribute to what they're trying to do? Okay, so when you're actively doing that, that experience is unique in itself. And the same way, it's almost, you don't want to go down the road of saying Rakim is better than Jay-Z. You don't want to say Chuck D or Flavor Flav is not as good as whatever, because what's happening is that once you start dealing with that degree of excellence, you can't compare one to the other, because what that person brings to the world is so unique and different that you can't even imagine that what it would be like without that being here. Okay, so then my answer would be, there are certain experiences that are so unique that I'm grateful that I've had them.
Okay.
I'm grateful that I've had them, and I'm grateful that I've been instrumental in bringing it down. And then I have to leave it at that so that I purposely stay out of the conversation of, well, who do you think is the best MC in the world?
Yeah, that makes
You know,
sense. That makes
you
sense.
know what I'm saying? Because I'm saying I would rather say, oh, okay, and here's my last part. If I was to say to you, there's a field of flowers, I want you to go out there and pick the best flower.
Mm-hmm.
Pick the best one.
Right.
That would show that the way we look at each other, we've been trained or culturally conditioned to look at each other in terms of better, best, worst, because it helps us to measure in terms of value. But there's certain things that I choose not to put a value on in that way, so that I have the freedom to just appreciate it without comparison, because comparison is only one way to get a sense of what something is. Does that make any sense?
That makes absolute sense. Saying you appreciate, having those experiences makes sense. You don't want to say whether or not. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then the other thing too is that just from a pure business sense, you don't want to be saying like, yeah, man, I think that Rakim is better than so and so and so, and then you cutting yourself off from
Yeah.
that doesn't make any business sense, Or whatever. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why. But I would say, but now to answer the question, can I answer it this way? Rakim was very, what I experienced with Rakim made me go, wow.
Mm.
What I experienced with Chuck D and Flavor Flav made me go, wow. What I experienced with MC Light made me go, oh, I see this.
Right.
What I experienced with LL Cool J was like, oh, okay. And then I remember with LL Cool J, after they had called me in to mix a record for him. And I remember LL Cool J, I'd mixed the record, I did my thing. Of course, I had gold records, stuff like that. LL Cool J was sitting next to me. And I hit the play button, and he listened to it, boom, 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 boom. And then I hit stop. And he didn't say nothing for about 30 seconds. And then he looked over to me and he said, I just want to know, is that the best you can do?
Huh.
What?
I'm like, what? So what do you think you do after that?
Right.
Do you think you do like that? I was like, I worked on it for about another hour and a half and took it to another level. And I learned the lesson from that.
Okay, so we're going to post Patricia's response.
Okay.
I commend you. That is hard to do. Seeing every situation, person as different and not compare. I agree that most of us tend to do. And in your position, that makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm.
Aha. Well, yep. Thank you, Patricia.
To respond.
Thank you.
Right. And it's very hard to do in such a competitive culture that's culturally conditioned. It's almost like you can't even do anything. It's like, are your records on the chart? If it's number 3, so you can't ignore it, because you're saying if you sold X amount of records, that equals success, and then as a result, you're number 5 on the chart as opposed to being number 1 on the chart is the reality that we're dealing with. If you're putting yourself in a situation where you're going to say, I represent Monticello Gymnastics, and I did a certain amount of discipline and whatever. Because that's the underlay of this society, it's very hard to do, which is why I commend Pete in terms of him being able to say, you still keep there are certain people that are like, slay everyone, slay everyone. I don't care whether they're, 9 or 11, they all go down, whatever that means. And there's that mentality. And yet the person that's not there still has to compete with that person in that. And so I remember when I was doing competition, my thing was I enjoyed the form. And I'm saying, can I do the perfect performance? And wherever it lands me, that's where it's going to land me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the same thing with the music. You know, wherever it lands me, I can say when I listen to it, somebody's going to go like, "Wow,
Mm-hmm.
that's incredible." And if I'm in that company, I'm good.
All right.
Love that.
So we definitely want to come down. We're
Yep.
probably going to bring cameras, make videos when we go to the museum.
Yeah, that museum is open right now,
Cool.
and it's from 86 to 90, and then we're gonna rip it down again,
Uh-huh.
and then we're gonna do from 90 to 95, and then we're gonna by the time that one is finished, then the large museum will be open.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay,
Bring my brother with me.
We're coming in April. We're coming in April. We're gonna connect.
that's good. That's cool. And the museum is open Thursday through I think Saturday or Thursday through Sunday, but you know.
Come on. Okay.
Yeah.
It's we're making it happen. We're making it happen.
Make it
And
happen.
at least I know when I text you, you'll respond to my text messages.
No, not anymore. Because you're a hard task master. You work, you call us like, oh, we need it 10 minutes from now. She's getting ready to perform. And I'm sweating and carrying on.
Listen, I really appreciate that. We
thank you
don't
so
know
much.
how much we appreciate that. Thank
And
you
we
so
thank
much.
you for our theme music that you did for us.
This is the man, the myth, the legend. He is the one that put our Tweed Talks theme song together.
That's right.
Yeah, that's my main complaint though. I was like getting ready to hear because I didn't see the video that you put to it, and you cut it short. I was like, oh man, I was like, oh, okay, because I hadn't heard it in almost what, a year and a half or something.
Yeah.
Well, listen.
Are we gonna take us out with the Tweed Talks? It was too short. Still too short, guys. Still too short. I agree.
Well, that's it.
You do have more than that though, right? You do, right?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
just checking.
This is from that.
So how come he get a longer introduction than I get? What's up?
My little brother.
I don't make those videos, Eli. So you gotta talk to me.
Yeah. She threw you under the bus, Pete. She threw you under the bus.
When we go to the museum, we make a longer one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll definitely do that.
Love that.
Let's do
Love that.
And the other museum is directly across the street.
Mm-hmm.
We may be able to get a tour. I'm not sure, but you'll be able to see it from across the street. And it's got when you see it, it's phenomenal.
I'm so excited.
We're definitely coming down.
Eli, thank you so much for coming on the show again.
Okay.
I'm gonna call you and we're gonna connect and we're going to the museum.
That's
All
right.
We're
Definitely.
Take
All
care.
right,
guys.
Eli, thank
Okay.
you. Have a good night.
Good night. Thank you so much.
Whew. I'm very
I'm
excited.
so bummed that I couldn't bring those video in. I kept trying so many different ways.
Mhm.
I mean, I was up until late last night trying to.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I was sleeping.
Yeah, you were sleeping.
I was sleeping.
Well, we have some more exciting guests coming on.
Mm-hmm.
Some people from London are some movie stars from London are going to be coming on. And then we have a young lady also that wrote a yoga book, and that was featured on one of the shows that you watch at Law and Order or something like that.
Okay.
And she's good. We talked, and she's going to be coming on, and also comedian. We haven't talked to him yet, but I know he's going to be coming on.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a lot of exciting guests, and then when we go down to the museum, we take some pictures and some, and maybe we have Bing on again. Eli, that means, yeah, because I'm going to find a way. I'm determined to find a way to do
I'm
that
just
video.
gonna edit the video into this, honey.
Okay, so we'll do that.
Don't stress
Patricia,
yourself.
thank you. Daryl, thank you again. Dee, thank you. And Liz, thank you for
Thank
watching.
y'all for watching.
And we'll talk about with gymnastic adult class.
Yeah, we'll see you guys again next Monday at 8 p.m. right here.
Right here in this channel. Thank you for watching. And love, peace, and harmony. Thank you.